Hello everyone, welcome to this Roundup. There is a growing excitement that the Internet of Things will bring nations the next industrial revolution because of the way it will change the way we the people will live, work, entertain, shop, travel, and so much more, as well as how nations, its government, industries, organizations, and academia, in short referred to as NGIOA, will interact with each other within and across nations. There are many who think that the revolution is already here. Irrespective of whether the revolution has already begun or will begin in the coming years, one thing remains certain. It will bring each nation, its government, industries, organizations, academia, and individuals, in short referred to as NGIOAI, each one of us, great promise as well as great peril. Now, when physical objects in geospace become embedded with sensors and gain the ability to communicate through internet or cyberspace, the new information networks will need to create new governance models, new business models, new technology, new business processes, and new way of doing things. While these will likely reduce costs, it is expected to increase speed, efficiency, opportunities, as well as risk. Now, the heart of Internet of Things is machine-to-machine communication through cyberspace or Internet. Now, while it is being built on cloud computing and networks of data gathering sensors, its mobile, virtual, and instantaneous connection is going to make everything in our lives in cyberspace, geospace, and space smart. IoT, that is Internet of Things, is expected to fundamentally change the way each NGIOA operates and does things. The governance and business models that are currently based on largely static information architectures will fundamentally face challenges as new ways of creating value arise across NGIOA in the coming months and years. Now, of all the technology trends that are taking place right now, the IoT brings very complex challenges for which perhaps no nation is prepared for. Now, while the Internet of Things has great promise, the business, policy, operational, and technical challenges must be tackled before these systems are widely and globally embraced. Now is the time for decision makers across NGIOA to structure their thoughts about the potential impact, opportunities, and risks likely to emerge from the Internet of Things. Now, to discuss this further, I'm delighted to welcome Maarten Ectors to Risk Roundup. Maarten is the Vice President at Canonical Limited based in United Kingdom. Welcome, Maarten. We are delighted to have you on Risk Roundup.
The pleasure is mine.
Great, Maarten. So let's start for the benefit of our global viewers and listeners. Let's start with a very fundamental question. What is Internet of Things?
It's a very easy question with a difficult answer. Internet of Things is a new movement in which we're connecting all types of things between one another and to the internet. That can be sensors, that can be like bigger devices, and they can now communicate with one another, with people in totally new ways. And how that will impact you, that is still a question, but that it will impact you is almost certain.
Right. No, that's a good explanation, Maarten. Now, what is the fundamental concept of IoT, the Internet of Things? What is the fundamental concept behind those whole movement of Internet of Things?
So I think the revolution started with a lot of other revolutions that just came before. The first thing that came was the mobile revolution. Because we all have a smartphone, it means that the cost of producing sensors and computing and so on has dramatically gone down. The other revolution is the cloud revolution. The fact that like you no longer buy servers, but you just rent them by the minute means trying something new is a lot cheaper. Now, those things combined have like now given rise to the Internet of Things, because all those small sensors that come from a mobile phone can now be embedded in everything around us, in wearables, in appliances, in your business, in your city. They can all give information, and that information can now also be processed on the cloud a lot cheaper than it could be before. So technically, those are the two things driving it. Now, How we can use it, how and what it's being used for, that's the business challenge and also the security challenges that we're currently all looking into.
That is very true, Maarten. Now, from your observation, because you are in this field and you know how many IoT applications have been developed so far, and across which industry it is used, based on your observation and knowledge, where is IoT being used so far? Which industries, which nations are advancing with this?
Well, there's smart cities all around the world. So basically, it's not a specific nation. There's lots of countries looking very much into this. And I think in every continent, there are countries and cities that are heavily investing in smart cities. Which specific industries? Well, I think there's very few industries that will not be impacted. The most active, of course, is the IT industry, where all those things normally get born. But everything from like insurance, like if the car can tell how it's being driven, then that has a direct effect on like how much insurance you have to pay. Logistics, if the car can drive by itself or the truck can drive by itself, then of course logistic models change. In banking, you can have things in retail. There's lots of things being done. In health, your body can continuously transmit data, and new things can be done with that. Entertainment, of course, is there. Even toys, Internet of Toys is a new area that gets a lot of attention. The whole aviation industry, like look at drones and so on. Industrial is the number one future money generator for most investments. So industrial robots and predictive maintenance. And I'm probably forgetting 25 other industries where people are working as well.
No, there's so much potential and so many possibilities with Internet of Things. Now, if you talk about just individual human being, like a common man, how would IoT or Internet of Things impact, each and every common man that is, living on this planet?
So it's a very, very good question. First of all, what should Internet of Things do? First thing it should do is solve problems. If it doesn't solve problems, then it actually is just a technology play. And there's a lot of those already going on that have led to nothing. But Internet of Things, when it solves your concrete problems, or it solves concrete cost problems, or generate new revenue, is where you see most impact. So there are, like, if you look at smart cities, for instance, in transport of for London, here in London, you have 20 bus stations where they're currently doing a test. There's some sensors that measure if people are there because they can hear them chat, or they can see that there's mobile signal just around the bus stop. And what they now do is, like, they schedule buses more frequently or less frequently based on the amount of people that are waiting. You normally have a timetable between 5 and 15 minutes. Well, if there's lots of people waiting, it will be closer to 5. If there's less, it will be closer to 15. That will save lots of congestion and so on. Other things where you will be impacted on your garbage. You can have sensors that just measure how much garbage you have. So basically, the truck will come and pick it up if it's full, and you'll pay more if you waste and less if you don't. This will be also a clear advantage. This other type of, like in retail, the other day I saw a very specific company that was looking at your shoes. So if you basically come into a store, if a camera is pointed at your face, that might be kind of creepy. If it looks at your shoes, there's less problems with privacy. But still, the store can know how many people came in, if they were children or adults, if they were female or male, and by the price of your shoes, probably if you're a big spender or not.
That is so amazing. I mean, so much productivity, efficiency, and effectiveness will be there because of the Internet of Things. Now, when did this whole concept of IoT came, and when did device-to-device connectivity came into existence? Is it like in just a few years before, or it has been there for a long time?
So before it was known as the Internet of Things, it was known as machine to machine. And machine to machine has been there for a long time. Think about like a Coca-Cola vending machine that just phones home and says like, I'm almost out of Coca-Cola, you should come and refill me. So that were like the first type of things, and those have been around for a long time. So it's not something new. The only thing what has been new in the latest years is things like Arduino and Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're very small boards, the size of a credit card or smaller, and they have the potential, like for instance, the Raspberry Pi is multiple times more powerful than the first Google servers, but it costs $35. So basically that means you can now put a supercomputer in any type of device, and that's what's accelerating the Internet of Things. You have cheap sensors, cheap compute that you can now include everywhere.
That is so amazing. Now, let's say, our global viewers and listeners, they come from across industries and across nations. If you have to explain them in very simple terms how the IoT works, how would you describe that? How would IoT work if you want to just explain them?
So it depends a little bit like where you are in the spectrum. If you look at sensors, those are the things that are all around you. They can pick up data. So the new smartwatches might pick up your heartbeat, and that then can be used by others. So if your heartbeat is shared with something else, then for instance, a video on demand service can see that you're not very interested and perhaps suggest you another thing to watch, or can see that you're very, very interested in this type of movie. So next time it suggests more of those similar movies. So it's all these senses can be helpful to get information. Then on the other side is the cloud. Why do you need the cloud? Well, if you get a lot of information about all type of things, you need to make sense. And what we're actually seeing is a sort of like data tsunami. Because if you just do the math about like if you point a camera at people and you send that to the cloud and you put the latest chipset that the mobile phones now have in there, it's basically an enormous amount of data that you're now sending to the cloud. So what's happening there is Facebook and Google and others have been investing a lot of effort in teaching computers how to recognize things. And that's why we're seeing all these things like self-driven cars. If you upload to Facebook, your photo is recognized. All those things are new developments. And this is where, like in IoT, they're super important because it can pick out the needle out of the haystack. And if you have too much data, you need to be able to do that.
Yes. No, that is a wonderful explanation, Maarten. Now, based on your observations, you are in United Kingdom and I'm here in USA. How many Internet of Things would be approximately connected to the internet right now? I mean, in your nation, my nation, or even if we look at it globally, how many IoTs are already connected?
Well, we all have a smartphone in our pocket, and I think the latest numbers are like there's more smartphones and phones now than people. So if you count those as connected, then we're already into the billions. Then afterwards, you have to go and add all other things that are connected to Wi-Fi or to Ethernet or to telephone communications and other type of protocols, and you add another so many billions. But the numbers go everywhere from like in the next years, we'll have 20, 50, 100 billion devices connected. So depends a little bit where you read, the number becomes bigger. But the only thing they all agree upon is many billions more will be coming in the next years.
That would be so amazing to see, the kind of challenges as well as the potential and opportunities it would bring. Now, one can say that Internet of Things, that's IoT, allows automation. I think that is fundamentally what it's doing. It allows automation. What are the other benefits of IoT?
So automation, of course, is one. New revenue generation can be as well. So basically, if you can like do new things on existing devices and people get value out of that, it can be used for totally new concepts. And you could actually do lots of new things. So to give you an example, so where we are concretely working on, we're putting app stores on things. So we make open source solutions that everything can have an app store. So think about, like, for instance, Weight Watchers and a fridge. If you would put an app on top of a fridge that has a smart lock, and you would have a scale in your home, and you have a Fitbit around your hand, then basically a Weight Watch app would lock the fridge in the morning until you stand on your scale. If you weigh more than yesterday, your tweeter would know before the fridge opens, and the fridge would only open during meal times. And then, or unless you go for a run and your Fitbit said you got to the next goal. And as such, then the fridge opens the whole day. So this is just an example of how like new things can be built that like bring lots of different use cases, lots of benefits, lots of new business potential, and help to help people that have a habit that they want to see changed.
So much control there would be, and I'm not sure if we humans are prepared for that kind of control, to give that kind of control to this kind of Internet of Things. So, but we'll see, how it is widely accepted. Now, based on your observation, what is the vision behind IoT? Where are we going next?
It's so there's a difference between home and industrial. In the home, I think it's all going to be about entertaining us, helping us like do all those chores that we don't like to do. So instead of you going online and ordering half a dozen of eggs and milk and other things, what you probably will do is you'll talk to your fridge and say, order me some eggs, and you take a scanner and you scan 5 other products, and then you can tell it like, get it to me as cheap as possible, and then the fridge will like see who can deliver those things the cheapest. So it's those type of things that like will come in the future. Entertainment, you'll be able to talk to your house. Things will be redefined. So you'll see that a lot more things will have like interaction with you. So if you have a dishwasher or a fridge with a touch screen and the alarm is on, it will then not show the dishwasher, but it might just show a keypad to unlock the alarm. So it's this type of things that you'll see all appearing around you, making your life easier, entertaining you, kids, and everybody else, and solving concrete problems. In the industry, it will be even more advanced. Something called predictive maintenance basically means knowing that something bad is going to happen before it actually happens. So we all have seen these big wind turbines that are 20 meters high that like capture wind and convert it to electricity. Now, through sensors, you can actually detect if a screw came loose or broke, and now there's some unnatural vibrations. What will happen in the future is computers will detect and look at algorithms and see, oh, that screw is probably the cause. Why don't we order a screw? And if it takes, for instance, 3 weeks to order the screw and get it there, and the computer predicts that in 2 weeks' time, the motor will break and the whole turbine will have to be replaced, then what it will do is it will go and order somebody to print it in a 3D printer. And it might be flown over by a drone that picks it up and drops it off. And automatically people will be scheduled to come and change it when the wind is not too powerful. So all these things working together will change the way things are done, will make sure that things don't break, will save people's lives. But in certain cases, will also change the job people have to do.
Yes, very true, very true. Now, integration with the internet implies that all the devices will use an IP address as a unique identifier, I believe. Now, it seems that the IPv4, the version that we are currently using, due to the limited address space of IPv4, Objects in the IoT will have to use IPv6 to accommodate the extremely large address space required because so many things will be connected to the internet. Now, for the benefit of our global viewers and listeners, can you explain the difference between IPv4 versus IPv6?
Yeah, so an IPv4 address is an address that only has a limited number of addresses, and it was designed in the 70s or 80s because like we would never have so many millions of computers, because in that time it was still more like mainframes and expensive servers. But they didn't think that like 20, 30 years later, you would have like billions of devices all needing IP addresses. So what has been done now is they have put a lot more numbers to identify uniquely every device. And I don't know the exact number, but like every square meter now can have more IP addresses than you can actually physically fit in it. So I don't think we'll run out of IP addresses with IPv6 very soon.
That is true. That is correct. Now, it seems that the IoT systems could also be responsible for performing actions like you were just describing, a few examples how it could be helping, like intelligent shopping systems could monitor specific users' purchasing habits, and they also could give special offers about favorite products and all those kind of, automation across industries are expected. Now automation of this level can bring very unwanted complex security threats, because when we are designing, when this internet of things and all these different new systems are being designed, security is generally not taken into account right at the architecture, when at the beginning, when the planning phases. So what kind of threats do you anticipate, or what are we talking about? What kind of threats we are talking about? Security threats. What I mean is, can you share your viewpoint on that?
Yeah, so anybody that is going to do IoT solutions and doesn't take security lightly, it can become one of those companies that kills through IoT. It's not something where like you should take it lightly. So we, for instance, are very much looking into how we can secure the base systems on which other people build, because otherwise very, very bad things can happen. So if you just take a look at like things around you, your simplest thing is a broadband modem. If that is insecure, and a lot of them today aren't actually very secure, things can come in, viruses can come in, people can hack, and so on. At this moment, those devices are not that powerful, but the next generation will be like small supercomputers, and it will be connected to things in your house. So even a virus that can come in and can just do something as simple as switch on and off a light remotely, if that virus now starts switching it on and off 100 times a second, that light bulb might explode and might provoke a fire and might kill everybody in that building. So there's a clear risk to connecting everything, and you need to take security seriously. So that's why, for instance, what we are doing is like we provide security updates as a feature in our open source solutions that like you'd have to pay us to turn it off. Like we take it that seriously. Like if there's a bug, we will push it out unless you pay us not to push it out, because otherwise you basically are having unsecure systems, which means somebody could open your garage door and walk into your house. So the future of criminals could just have a laptop and go to your house and open the doors. So this is why like security is paramount, and anybody doing anything in IoT that doesn't know about security should really, really look into it, because very, very bad things can happen. Think about like self-driven cars and ransomware. Like, would you want to be in a car where the doors get locked, it starts accelerating, and it then starts asking money, and if you don't give it in 10 minutes, it will crash you into a wall. There's very dangerous things that can happen.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think any nation is prepared for this nature of complex security challenges that IoT is about to bring or is already bringing to us. Now, it seems that IoT products, if we look at it, broadly, we can categorize into like smart wearable, smart home, smart city, smart environment, and smart enterprise. Do you have any estimate about what is the global market size we are looking at? If we are just talking about, let's say, smart home or smart city, what is the market size we are looking at
Yeah,
individually and collectively?
it's a very good question that has an impossible answer at this moment, because you'd have to understand what will be the biggest market or the biggest solution in each market. So if you would be back in 2008, 2009, 2010 timeframe, and I'd ask you what is the impact cloud will have and where will it be biggest, probably you would be saying, well, I don't think it will be that enormous, and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in this industry. You'd probably never predicted that the American and UK intelligence agencies would be some of the first to move to the cloud. You'd probably not have predicted that, like through things like Netflix, or viewing habits changed completely, and now they are like generating more data traffic than anything else in the world. So it's like it's very hard to predict where things are coming and how they will impact you unless you are more or less seeing them start and can then predict how they will evolve. And even then, you probably overestimate them on the short term and very much underestimate them on the long term. So it's like in 98, everybody knew the internet was going to be big. They just thought it would be in 2000. Well, it took a little bit longer, but since then, ask people that like are selling stamps or are selling trips and travel agents, like, did the internet impact their business or not? It just changed complete industries.
That is true. That is true. Now, it seems that there is a growing belief that IoT would play a critical role in data capture and behavioral statistics because of the amount of interactions it would have with each and every human being, or each and every, even if you look at personal life of a anyone, then everything that is connected in their home, or on that person. Or if you look at enterprises in the business, or if you look at governments, each industry or each sector of each component of a nation, if you look at it, they all are connected by, they're in the process of going to be connected by IoT. So it will create a lot of data, a lot of information that would be captured, and a lot of behavioral analysis, also would happen. So what are the implications you see because of this humongous amount of data that would be generated?
Well, it's theoretically impossible to take all that data in a raw format and then store it somewhere centrally. If you just look at like 4K televisions and 4K cameras on your phone, that 4K word doesn't seem important, but the reality is it generates 30 times more data than high definition, which by itself was again like 20 or 30 times more data. So we're talking about like 600 times more data than like some years back for just one single camera. Now, think about if that camera in your home would cost less than $50, you could have several. In a company, you could have hundreds of those cameras. Multiplied by such a big amount of data, it would basically mean that a couple of cameras would fill a hard disk every day with data. So if you want to capture all your grass moving in your garden and store that locally, that's fine. But you'd have to spend $100 on buying a new disk every day to just have data about your grass moving. So the trick now is we need to, at the edges, where the cameras are, where the sensors are, filter out what is important. If we can filter out what is important to you at the edges, then we can do something with it, and we don't have to just store irrelevant data like the grass is moving. So what could be important is also different by the use case. So if you are allergic to cats, and the cat of the neighbors runs onto your grass, you might think that's important, and you might want your house to put on the sprinklers, but not when it sees a person or your dog. So for you, that cat on the grass is important, but for an enterprise that has a security system, a cat shouldn't trigger an alarm. A person that comes close in the middle of the night through that grass should trigger an alarm. So what we need is intelligence on the edges that can actually say, this is important and this is not. And when it's important, it needs to be shared. When it's not, it needs to be forgotten pretty soon.
Yes, so probably artificial intelligence would have to get involved in that too, because you want to make it much more smarter. I mean, like you said, so much data would be generated, but which data would be meaningful or useful, that should be communicated. That is going to be the key. Now, when we look at big data and IoT that would work, in conjunction, what kind of impact we would see? Because as you said, there is going to be so much data, but we will have to differentiate which data would be meaningful. But when this whole big data, that each and every nation, each and every industry collects with the, and IoT together, if you talk about policymakers, or if you talk about regulators or decision makers across NGI, if they have to just go through that, understand where the nations, the information that they are getting every day, how would they deal with that? What kind of impact it would create on that?
Yeah, so I just explained the technical impact of data, the legal impact, the business impact is even bigger. So it's not because I look at your shoes that I might not be able to identify you, because if I can link that to other things, I might actually be able to identify you. So at what point is data that identifies a person as still legal, and what point it isn't? At what point do we have to ask a human being for permission? At what point we don't? Is all a question, because sometimes it will be a governmental camera that is there, another time it will be a bank camera, another time it will be a camera at your home that films you. They can't all have the same rules, but as a society, we probably need rules on all those things. So at this moment, I think the technology is far ahead of the policies around it, and that will give some friction in the following years, because you probably don't necessarily know it, but the phone in your pocket can often identify you before you actually walk into a store, even if you don't push a button on it. So there's a lot of things that need to be looked at, and we need to look at the whole privacy. We need to look at what data is important and who can justify collecting certain data and who can't, and who shouldn't. And yeah, it's an open debate that definitely over the next years will definitely create some headlines.
That is very true. That's going to be the key. Who should be allowed to collect that kind of data? Because not everyone should be allowed to collect, everyone's data without, any restrictions. So that we'll have to see how nations set up those rules. Now, it's believed that IoT would change environmental monitoring. Now, what kind of changes we would see if we are talking about environmental monitoring? Because there's so much in the air, water, soil. There's so much, that needs to be monitored. And if you are looking at individuals or human beings, they would love to know, details about what kind of water they are getting, what kind of air they are getting, what pollution is in there. So what kind of changes do you anticipate in the environmental monitoring using IoT?
So there's lots of possibilities there. So from smart farming, where you have sensors, and you have you detect certain problems, so you have to feed or put more water or put less water. You could even have drones flying over crops and detect diseases, and then only put products on those that have the disease, not everywhere. So like even in something as simple as farming, we can reduce the water consumption, we can reduce pesticides to only where it's needed. So we can do a lot of environmental change by being able to measure what's happening. And we all have in very recent memory the car scandals about diesel engines. Well, those type of things, we don't have to rely on a body anymore somewhere centric to do measurements. Like it will be very easy for a smart car to measure exactly how much it consumes and how much it blows into the air. So what you will get probably is models where, like, if you pollute, you have to pay more, and the more you pollute, the more you waste, the more you pay. As such, like both industries and companies as well individuals will change their habits or will change their devices to be better to the environment. So the direct impact should be that like policymakers should make it so that like things are measured and polluters should pay more than the ones that don't.
That's very interesting. Now, that makes me think about another, big area of concern here, that, each and every sensor that you, let's say, you said we can put it in the soil, and based on the analysis, we would know where to put the pesticides, or, how much to put. Now, to teach the sensors, I mean, the sensors are not going to know these automatically, because we'll have to feed data to the sensors that if it is, if the soil is like this, or if the air is like this, or water is like this, then we have to, trigger this, and we have to spray the pesticides as necessary. But how is that determined? Who decides what kind of data needs to be fed into the sensors?
Yes.
Is there a collective analysis done on that?
No, so basically, Internet of Things has three levels. You have the sensor level and the cloud level. What we didn't discuss that much is the smart devices in the middle. Those smart devices are the ones that like can receive sensor data and can take a trained model from the cloud and then make autonomous decisions. So in the case of a farm, you might have hundreds of sensors everywhere, but you're probably only going to have like a couple of smart devices that get that data. And they will quickly go through all that avalanche of data and apply some smart models that they get from somewhere else. If they find there's a problem, they will then go to the cloud and ask, what should we do now? And from time to time, the cloud will like find exceptional cases that weren't in its previous model and will bring a new model to the edges, so that all those smart devices can autonomously take decisions. Because think about a car, for instance. You don't want a car where if you push the brake, it would have to go to the cloud and take a decision if it now has to physically stop the car or not. Because if your connectivity goes down with the cloud, it might never get the actual action to stop the car. So this smartness needs to be at the edges, and that will be the one that will take autonomous decisions on like what now needs to be done. And it will update those decisions if new models are being made available.
True. Now I understand that now. So, I mean, if we have to, IoT is going to bring so much difference across each and every industry. I mean, we can talk about how it will change the healthcare, how it will change the energy industry, how it will change the infrastructure. But that will take away probably, the whole hour, because there is so much to talk about, for each and every industry. So we are not going to focus on each and every industry, how IoT is expected to change that in this session. In the coming sessions, we'll talk about that, individual industries will address, so that we can have an in-depth analysis about how each and every industry is going to be impacted because of IoT. But today, let's focus on the home automation, because that is going to help each and every individual, our global viewers and listeners, understand how their homes, their personal lives, is going to be impacted because of the changes coming because of IoT. So, how do you expect IoT to change building and home automation?
Yes. So basically, if you wear a smartwatch that has access to your vital signs, then your house will know if you're upset or not before you open the door. It will know it's you, so it will open the door for you. And if it sees that you're stressed, it will start doing different type of like experiments. And over time, it will learn what calms you down. So after some time, you'll get home and it will have experimented with the smell of coffee or tea or other things. It will have experimented with different type of music, with different type of light intensity, with different type of temperature. So the thing your home will do is try to make you feel relaxed, to make those boring things go away. If like somebody is trying to sell you something at the door and all your neighbors have said no, it will not even let them ring the bell. It will just immediately say, no, we're not interested, because the homeowner is now on the sofa and relaxing. They don't want to buy this or that product from you. So it's this type of things where like day to day, your home will adapt itself, will make the shopping easier, will make cleaning easier, will make sure you don't forget things. If your heating system is going to break down, it will schedule somebody to come and take a look before it breaks down. It's all those things that you'll see. You'll have new devices in your home to which you can talk, and they will respond to things. You have new devices that will run around and clean things for you. There's new entertainment. There's integrations with your mobile, integration with your social network, integration with television and other type of devices.
That will be so fascinating. I look forward to those kind of developments. It will make individuals' life so much better and so much, more peaceful. Because if we are able to get rid of the nuisances, like the way you are describing, that would be so amazing. Now, looking at the trends of IoT, it seems in the coming years, everything could be or probably would be tagged. Now this, has both advantages as well as disadvantages. Now, do you think people would feel comfortable if their clothes, their shoes, their jewelry, everything that they are, wearing or they're associated with, that could be tagged? Do you think they would, accept that?
Any technology needs to solve a concrete problem. If it doesn't, people don't tend to buy it. People tend to reject it. So if putting tags in there is used for the wrong things, people will revolt and will not buy the tag clothes and will keep on buying the other clothes. If people find that because things have tags, nuisances go away, new things are possible that are exciting, they will accept it. It's like the first microwaves, everybody was scared of them until everybody discovered they're actually quite handy to very quickly warm up a cup of coffee or tea. So it will all be, are we going to be better off? Well, then we probably want it. If we're not, then we probably don't buy it. Our purse will decide what is useful.
Yeah, good point. Good point there. Let's see, how individuals are thinking of balancing their privacy and security and having this kind of, efficiency and luxury in their life. So we'll have to see how in each individual, how they accept it and how they, view this. But now it seems that because of this IoT, hundreds of applications to interface with hundreds of devices that probably don't share protocols for speaking with one another. It seems we need global standards because across nations, each nation is working, individually in their own ways and developing their own applications or own kind of devices, and everybody has their own standards and own interfaces. So how would each nation deal with these, complex challenges in balancing their interfaces?
Yeah, so basically, there have been two ways of making standards. One way was like put experts in a room from different companies and different nations and let them decide what is the standard for everybody. And then was let us try to find the simplest possible solution that works. And if people start using it, let's afterwards document what it actually does. Now, what we've seen is that most of those first groups were standards because it was hard to do it otherwise. It was very hard to make your own dishwasher that was better. So you bought whatever dishwasher that was on the market that would then come with those standards. But the internet has been one of the first places where like crowdsourced standards came to life. And the smartest standard won, not the most well-funded or the most politically correct standard. So what is happening now is there's this new generation of solutions that allow the smartest standard to win. So on any app-enabled device, you can basically just download a standard as an app. So if you want, for instance, in the home, an IoTivity versus an old join, if you have an app store on a device, you can have both standards. So in the beginning, what will happen is you can have all the standards as different apps. And if you need them, you install them. If you don't, you don't. And what will soon happen is only the ones that are really used will be installed. They will come by default, and the rest will slowly go away. And what is now possible is that those standards are put open source out there so that everybody can just pick the best one. And we might not get expected, but like, for instance, this week we are doing a crowdfunding campaign about software-defined radio. So the wireless industry was one of those last places where like you had standards that were defined by committee, not by the best technical people. Well, even that is changing now, because what we are seeing is you can make an app, put it on a software-defined radio, and then be a mobile base station, be a Wi-Fi, be something that controls a drone, be something that is Bluetooth, or invent your own standard. So the future even of wireless communication will be impacted by just people having a better idea, making an app, and letting everybody else try it and see if they like it. And standards will just be those things that like, the things that work, that are easy, that get the job done will go up. The complex things that are over-engineered, that nobody understands and are hard to use, will be discarded. So yes, there will be lots of standards in the future, but the really useful ones will bubble up.
Right, right. No, that would be really interesting to see how it works out. And I think technology people, who are developing internet IoTs and other applications, I think they would be able to play a much bigger role in developing things that would communicate easily with each other, irrespective of which nation they are in. So let's wait and see how it shapes up. But another key point that we need to address is about the frameworks. How are Internet of Things frameworks developing? Because we will need a framework that would allow complex structures like distributed computing and the development of distributed applications. So there needs to be some sort of framework. So what is your analysis about that? How is it being developed?
So again, what we do here is like we allow people to make cloud solutions or solutions for the edges and package them. On the edges, an app, on the cloud, it's a bundle of solutions. And basically, what happens here again is, as long as you make it easy for people to try out all 500 in the morning, then they will pick. So by creating transparency on like what are the different things and moving away from the way software was sold before, which was on a golf course in Hawaii where like you were seeing slides. And often the people that like were deciding on what software their enterprise had to use didn't have to actually use the software, to moving to models where you just try the software, and if you like it, you take a subscription to it. If you don't like it anymore, you stop paying and you stop using it. So from a framework perspective, what will work is what people will use, what people will take subscriptions or support services for, and the rest will vanish. It's again adoption that will drive it.
Yes, yes. Now, this is another interesting area that I want to discuss, is that there are some technology pioneers in the United States. They are advocating a new data-based approach to governance and they they have named it as algorithmic regulation. And people are saying that if technology provides the answers to society's problems, I mean, there are a lot of people very hopeful and very, optimistic that technology that is being developed across nations is going to help solve it, pretty much each and every problem that, nations have currently, because it will be able to solve it in a much easier way than, rather than having a very complex way of doing the governments the way they do business currently. So what are your thoughts about the algorithmic regulation, and do you think the technology will provide the answers to society's problems?
So it will not solve everything, first of all. It will lower the cost of some things and make some things easier. So it's not only algorithms that are moving in that direction. You also have something called smart contracts that are based on, I don't know if you're familiar with Bitcoin, which is the cryptocurrency. So the reason why you can't double spend a cryptocurrency is something called blockchain, which is a distributed ledger. Now, there's smart groups of people that have created smart contracts based on these distributed ledgers. What does that all mean? It basically means we can automate a lot of things and let computers take decisions. So algorithms and smart contracts will be able to automate the daily stuff. The daily things were like, I send out a smart contract to do my shopping. And that smart contract needs to find the right price for these and these products. Those things can be automated. I don't think it's automatable that like I now need to fall in love with that person or things like that. There's still certain things where algorithms will never be the steerer. They can suggest, but people will still have to be seeing if it's actually right what they're saying.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, let me ask you something. Let's say, for example, your company is developing a product in the area of healthcare monitoring, just, to take an example. And you want to know that are there any other developers across nations who are also trying to do or develop something that you are trying to develop? Do you think you will be able to develop a sensor or IoT by which, you will be able to gather that kind of intelligence from across nations that, what other kind of, technology is being developed in the area that you want to develop and what are the similarities? Do you think you will be able to capture that kind of intelligence using IoT?
I think there's a lot of sharing platforms, and the sharing economy allows people to work together on things that they both are interested in. So you have things like crowdfunding, you have things like GitHub, and you have other things where like you already can find people that are interested in a certain area, that are interested in a certain idea, that are interested in a certain technology. So finding people that are working on something, or like if you have a certain problem, you don't know how to solve it, and crowdsource a solution and put an award against it are already techniques that are being used. And I think IoT will just accelerate that trend. But I think there's lots of solutions already happening in that space.
Interesting. Now, this IoT is an environment in which objects, animals, or humans are provided with very unique identifiers, and the ability to transfer data over a network without requiring human to human or a human to computer interaction. Now, IoT, it seems that it has evolved from the convergence of wireless technologies, micro electromechanical systems, and the internet. Now, the concept, it seems that we are referring to as Internet of Everything is, for most of the humans across nations, very, it's like very frightening, I would say. As many, they don't even understand what exactly it is, how it's going to impact their life, how it is going to benefit their life, or what control they will lose over their privacy, what security challenges they will have. So how would what will you tell to human beings across nations, the common man, that are frightened by this, that Internet of Things is coming, what would happen to our lives? What would you tell them for their, understanding and for their peace of mind that, it is not a technology, or it is not an area that is out there to destroy humans, or, many people are scared of artificial intelligence, that, their lives would be taken over by machines. How would you explain to the human beings that, they don't need to be afraid of the Internet of Things?
Well, I think if we look at history, there have been like many waves where people were saying, "Oh, this will destroy us as a humanity," and that could have been the steam engine, that could have been like the car, internet, mobile phones. Like we were no longer going to travel; we were going to be all at home, hooked to a phone or whatever. And then at the end, new things happened. Jobs changed, but if you would have to go and work back 150 years ago, you might have to take a shovel and fill a boat by hand, and then like be 3 days filling a boat. We now have cranes, we have containers, we have automated processes, and we still are doing like probably more interesting jobs, because the whole boring, annoying things have been automated, and now we can focus more time on what we actually want to do, or where we actually feel richer as a person. So the whole idea of like new things coming, for those that are forward-looking, it's an opportunity. And for those that get impacted, perhaps their next job might be more interesting than what they were doing before.
Right, right. Do you think that nations have the proper infrastructure in place for IoT to be able to, succeed the way we all hope that it would succeed?
I think there will be challenging moments that are coming, and it will be nations, it will be cities, it will be businesses, it will be your home that all runs into a problem. But if the solution that is being targeted is big enough as a value for people, somebody will find solutions.
Yes. Now, it seems you have been very successful in creating IoT in your role for your company. Based on your profile, it seems you have done some really amazing things, in your capacity that you have with your current business that you are working with, current organizations. Would you like to share your story with our global viewers and listeners about your IoT journey and where you are headed? Because I think they would be very interested in learning about that, how you managed to do what you did over the years at your company.
Yeah, so I started 3 years ago, and it wasn't IoT. It was like, where's the cloud going? Can you tell me? And like, what can we do to make sure that we solve problems? That was the questions I was asked in my job interview. So I joined Canonical. Canonical is famous for being the company behind Ubuntu. We are the #1 in the cloud. And we got a lot of developers asking us, like, look, we are developing things on the cloud as well as on devices. We need something easier. It's not really that easy to make code if you like have to change it for everywhere. So what we are now focusing on is making the developer's life super easy by making apps that you can now install everywhere. And in the cloud, make complete solutions that, like, in a couple of clicks, you can deploy and scale out and so on. And that technology play often could do a lot more if people just understood it. So my role has been like taking a car, driving to a place where people only knew horses, and saying that the car was actually better. But instead of showing them slides, I would take them for a spin. I would even let them drive themselves. I'll drive one of their fastest horses, and then they would say, like, I like this, but I would like it to be blue, and I would like it to have like leather seats or this and this and this. But the journey has been all about like showing people telling about like what is possible, how it can be done, and educating people on like what the new possibilities are of all that tsunami of innovation that's coming our way.
That's very interesting, Martin. Now, you have given, Risk Roundup almost an hour of your time, and you have explained this whole IoT concept and the applications and where we are heading in a very simple, very, user-friendly manner that, all our global viewers and listeners will be able to understand this very complex, topic in a very, easy manner, and they would, definitely benefit from what you had to say today. So thank you so much, Martin, for coming on Risk Roundup.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Now we can say that the Internet of Things is here, but the widespread adoption of the Internet of Things will definitely take time. Now, when billions of devices are in the process of being connected together, what can we, the humans, do to make sure that our information and data stays secure? With the broadband internet becoming more widely available across nations, the cost of connecting to the cyberspace or to the internet is decreasing across nations. More and more devices are being created with Wi-Fi capabilities and sensors that are built into them. Technology costs are going down and smartphone penetration is skyrocketing across nations. All of these things are creating a perfect playing field for the IoT. The Internet of Things has great promise, yet governance, regulatory, business, policy, privacy, security, and other technical and non-technical challenges must be tackled before these systems are widely embraced. Risk Group, Cybersecurity Risk Research Center, and Strategic Security Risk Research Center are created for this very purpose so that we can identify, evaluate, and manage the risk facing NGIOA in CGS, that means nations, its government, industries, organizations, and academia in cyberspace, geospace, and space. And we discuss, debate, and define necessary frameworks, structure, processes, tools, and technologies to manage the security risk of not only the digital global age, but also of the coming technological superconvergence. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace walk together hand in hand. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. And it is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts feed into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is built for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security. So if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage the existing and emerging risks together. For more information on the Risk Roundups, to watch the Risk Roundup videos, or to hear the Risk Roundup podcast, please go to riskgroupllc.com. Do not forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, I'm Jayshree Pandya, host of Risk Roundup, signing off. See you next time. Thank you.